This is the Fantasy Football Game Plan, where we talk about fantasy football and the NFL.
Hey, Scott, how's it going?
It's going well. How are you doing today?
Good, good. Enjoy the games yesterday?
Yes, they were pretty entertaining.
Yeah, the Lions fought hard in their game.
Oh, right, the Lions with the trickeries. Yeah, it's just too bad they have a goalful quarterback.
He did have that one bad throw that could have been the game-winning touchdown or go-ahead touchdown.
Every week, he like 2 weeks ago he fumbled like in the red zone, and he had, like you mentioned, he had the guy open for the post, but he also had Swift open underneath on that pick. But he decided to throw it into triple coverage instead of going for the post, which would have been an easy one-handed grab, or going for Swift, who could have ran it into. Anyways, Lions suck. Oh,
I'm sorry. We've got a couple of buys coming up this week. So we've got the Ravens and the Raiders are both on buys.
Okay.
So given that and looking at some of the matchups that are coming, I had fallen out of favor with Daniel Jones based on how he was doing last week. But then yesterday, not only did he have, 203 yards passing and a touchdown, but he had 8 carries for 28 yards, and he had an OBJ one-handed grab. Poster show.
The Philly special turned to the New York special.
Yeah. Yeah, so he's back on our list this week for waiver pickups.
Yeah, he's like the top running back pretty much for that team.
Yeah, right. Well, and they've got the Chiefs this week, right? And the Chiefs are bad at football, especially on defense.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, another guy that we have often on this list is Teddy Bridgewater. And I guess, what happens is they're not in the top 24 quarterbacks, these guys that we're talking about. So when they keep coming up over and over again on our waiver picks, it's because they're probably available, right? Or at least they might be. So Bridgewater, Bridgewater's another guy.
I did a calculation on my fantasy league, and it looks like there was 13 quarterbacks taken out of a 10-man team. So that means only 3 teams are housing 2 quarterbacks. So okay. There's a lot of these guys in my league that are open because there's only 13 guys ahead of them that are not.
Okay.
So that's just how my league is working right now, is that, there is always a quarterback, it seems like, to pick up. So like Teddy Bridgewater, I had him, but I dropped him.
Yeah.
Just because I needed a skill player instead of a quarterback, considering that my quarterback's bye weeks next week or something like that.
Yeah, with all those bye weeks that we just had in week 7, there's guys that are getting dumped out, right? Because of people desperately needing a skill position player like you're talking about. So some of these guys, even though they've been picked up in the past, they get recycled.
Yeah, and that's also like a strategy on its own, is if people have too many of one position on their roster, they're holding on to guys because they're not technically want to start these players. They just don't want anybody in the league to have them.
Yeah.
So really being cautious to where people are dropping, because last week, with so many buys and so many injuries into this week, caused a chaos of like people dumping bench players that they probably didn't want to.
Yes. Yeah, good point. It's a luxury. At some point in the season, you can hang on to guys, just, keep clinging, seeing if they're going to do something or not. But eventually, when we get to the bye weeks and the injuries, you have to make decisions. And so some of these guys like Bridgewater, he comes up again, he's got Washington. So having Washington is almost as good as having Kansas City as an opponent. And Washington, they're not playing good defense right now. And so there's a good chance the Broncos will put up some numbers on them.
Mm-hmm. I hope so.
Yeah. And another guy that I'm surprised might be out there is Matt Ryan.
Yeah. He's definitely coming into his game. He's a good pickup.
Yeah. He only had a couple of touchdowns against Miami. And he has got a tough opponent coming up with Carolina. but he might be out there and he might be worth grabbing. So Tyrod Taylor's coming back from injury, apparently.
And Deshaun Watson may be going to another team. So is he going to is Tyrod going to take over? Maybe.
Well, I mean, Watson's not taking any snaps right now, but
no, but they're trading him. They could trade him. They could, and that's someone else that we could put on your list too if you want to pick him up. But how long is it going to take him to learn a playbook? And do you really need your quarterback in week 10 before he starts producing, right?
Yeah. Let's see where he goes. Maybe he'll be a waiver pickup in weeks to come. Deshaun Watson will be. But, for now, Tyrod Taylor. The thing is, Tyrod Taylor's facing the Rams, and they're such a good defense. You think he'll be able to do anything against those guys?
He's still going to meetings. But the Texans are a horrible team. So if they're covering Cook, most likely not. I don't know. It's the waiver wire. So Tyrod Taylor is out there. Maybe don't pick him up this week. Maybe pick him up next or somewhere down the line. There's bye weeks throughout the season. So he may not be today's best pick, but he's definitely someone to keep an eye on.
Okay. So speaking of that, I've been hanging on to Trey Lance as my number 2 quarterback behind Brady. I've been hanging on to him all year, thinking that by the time Brady has a bye in week 9, which is not this week, it's following week, that Trey Lance will take over as the starter and he'll be playable for me instead of becoming one of those guys that we were just talking about where I have to dump him out because he's not playable in week 9. So just before we started recording this, the 49ers said that Jimmy Garoppolo is going to start next week. Do you believe him?
He might start, he may not finish.
Right. So, I mean, if he starts, like maybe Jimmy Garoppolo is the pickup and then you stash Trey Lance, or maybe Shanahan's lying again, which he does, and Trey Lance will play this week, which I'm kind of hoping for.
Yeah, I guess you can't really tell. And he's someone to pick up if you need a decent quarterback on your team.
Yeah. And this just happened. I don't know if you saw this, because I was going to say as a possible play, Mike White from the New York Jets played last week because Zach Wilson got hurt, but they just traded for Flacco. They just traded from Philadelphia. They got Joe Flacco headed to the Jets. I don't think the Jets will play Flacco as their starter, but he'll be the backup probably this week. And then who knows going forward, because I think Zach Wilson's injury is going to keep him out for like 2 to 3 weeks, I think they said.
Well, no, I did not hear that, but it's also interesting to see what Philadelphia is doing with their stacked roster. Getting rid of a seasoned veteran. They probably picked up something pretty good in a draft pick. And then they also just, like if we talk about tight ends, they just released Ertz last week and, now sitting with Arizona. So they got a pretty good deal with that as well too. So
yeah,
I think what's happening in Philly, and even if you start talking about Philadelphia right now, right into running backs, because that's like the next big thing is like Philly's. It happened what's happened with New York Giants, where the running back room is gone, and now you're just looking to see who's going to be the replacement. And is Boston Scott taking it over, or is it going to be Kenneth Gainwell? Who knows what is going to happen in that backfield? But interesting for pickups, and probably the best one and hottest one on the market right now.
Yeah, well, I was looking at what they did. So it looks to me like they split the work, and that Gainwell, actually, he's the pass catcher. He had 4 catches for 41 yards and a touchdown. So Boston Scott, he had 7 rushes for 24 yards, and he only had 1 catch for 5 yards, but he had the rushing touchdown near the goal line.
We've seen Boston Scott play before in the past, and they like him as a runner. The only problem is, same thing with Sanders, is that Hurts likes to run the ball, so he takes away running plays from the running back, kind of like a Lamar Jackson. they take away the yards that the running back is supposed to get you. So it's really, really hard to say Emmanuel Sanders would have been a bell cow because the quarterback takes on all the runs. So like even with these two players, like if you're looking for a stretch for an RB2, maybe one of these guys may do it for you. But just in general, that team, it's pretty hard to say this guy's going to get 12 carries in a game to make 80 yards or a scrambling touchdown. So
but if you're desperate and you were a Miles Sanders owner and now he's out, and then you got your Raiders on a bye and your Ravens on a bye and you're thin at that position, maybe one of these guys will help you.
Well, for sure. Yeah. You got to pick them up unless you have someone sitting on the bench.
Yeah.
You got to pick one of those guys up.
Yeah. So in Cincinnati, even though Mixon is the main guy there, Perine was back from injury this week and he had some good production. He had 11 carries for 52 yards, 4.7 per carry, which is great. He had a touchdown and he had a catch for 23 yards. So while he's not the starter, he's definitely getting great playing time on a good team with a great defense. He's got to be considered, but now we're going to get into a sticky situation. The Patriots running back room is so complicated.
Hey, but they put up 54 points this week.
Yeah, but they were playing the Jets.
It's still 54 points.
Yeah, it is. But I mean, Damian Harris got the 2 touchdowns, right?
Okay.
But then, for whatever reason, randomly, they sat the obvious backup from the previous week, Ramondre Stevenson. They put him on the bench. Brandon Bolden caught a lot of balls. He had only 2 carries, but he had 6 catches for 79 yards and a touchdown.
Yeah, he looked stunning. He looked absolutely amazing.
But I mean, you never know when they're going to play him, right? Like, because they also brought in J.J. Taylor. He only had 9 carries for 21 yards, but they gave him all the goal line work, and he got 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, well, maybe Belichick doesn't care about fantasy, and he just messes with. He's not just playing the opponent team; he's playing the fantasy league too. Maybe that's just a big of a mind he is. He's just like, I am going to screw with everybody, fantasy holders and offensive coordinators on the opposing team.
I just don't get it because Ramondre Stevenson was playing so well. I don't know.
But Belichick does that all the time. He'll come out one week with an offense, and then the next week he comes out totally different. And he changes it all the time. So it's just like they always have their bread and butter plays, but really the personnel is like it's kind of like a numbering system. Like there's not really a superstar out there that's dictating where the ball's going. It just goes, no, this is your. I don't know. It's weird. It's a very tough running back room. I don't know. Maybe it's like there's a lot of teams that we identified of having committees.
Yeah.
That you need to stay away from. Tampa Bay being one of them, unless if you have Fournette, right? And then this is another team that also has this committee as well too, which is difficult to just pick and choose because you need guys to get you touchdowns. If guys are not giving you touchdowns, you're not going to win your week.
Yeah.
That's the easiest scenario alive. Like no matter how many yards they're going to get rushing, that's fine. They need rushing and touchdowns.
Yeah.
So you can't stick around and say, oh, Harris is going to be my quarterback because J.J. Taylor's taking the goal line snaps. That doesn't work for anyone.
Yeah, we just don't know. You might play one of those guys and he might help you one week, but then the next week, not so much. So yeah, good luck. We got the same situation going on with Baltimore. I know that they're on a bye this week, but we have seen that Devonta Freeman is a touchdown vulture down by the goal line. So in terms of looking at some guys you might want to stash, there's a couple of guys that are on bye this week, Devonta Freeman being one. Also, Kenyon Drake, we had him on the list of pickups last week, and he had a great game because Josh Jacobs went out with an injury. And although they're on a bye this week, I have to think going forward that Josh Jacobs is so often injured that they're going to want to keep Kenyon Drake a part of this scenario. So if you somehow have room on your bench, I think Kenyon Drake is someone going forward that you might be able to count on.
Yeah, and that's if he's around. Drake was one of those like high profile names going into the season, so he might be not there. So, but if
Yeah.
he's there, he's definitely a huge pickup.
Yeah, he was available in my league. Someone picked him up and played him, and they did quite well with him. So that person was mad they couldn't get Ernst Johnson, but they did pretty well with Drake. So let's move on to the wide receiver situation. You probably heard about Devonta Adams in Green Bay, supposed to play on Thursday, but COVID. So he is vaccinated, but there's a chance he could play, but there might not be enough time between now, when we're recording this on Monday, and Thursday for him to get 2 negative COVID tests in. So Rodgers might be without his favorite target, which means there's a couple other guys to look at on that team for this week.
They have their tight end that he loves too, right?
Tonyan.
Tonyan. Yeah.
Yeah, actually, there's Marquez Valdez-Scantling, who's also a wideout who Rodgers likes. So if Adams isn't playing, you could look at those guys, or even Randall Cobb, who Rodgers.
Yeah, I was going to say Cobb right away because he loves, well, not loves Cobb, but he likes working with Cobb. It's good chemistry, and if his favorite target's not there, he's probably looking for someone else he can trust.
Yeah. So these are all guys that we've had on the list before, and they're back again, and for good reason. I mean, if you've got Aaron Rodgers as your quarterback and he doesn't have his favorite target, that's a lot of target share getting spread around to those other guys. So yeah. And a guy that you had talked about in the past had a great game, and we're putting him on the list for this upcoming week from the Lions.
Raymond, because he asked me the other week who to pick, and I said to you, Swift. And then I said if I was going to choose anyone, it would be Khalif Raymond, because he's catching the balls. I don't know why golf likes him so much, but he's catching the balls and he's making the yards for them. He's the only receiver making yards for them.
He got 6 receptions for 115 yards against the Rams. They even gave him a carry. So yeah, they like him. And that was a good find on your part. I'd never heard of the guy until you brought him up. But you
don't watch the Lions religiously. Every week I sit there and I torture myself for 3 hours. My blood pressure rises, and then I crack beers afterwards and drown my sorrows. So, I watch them, and like it's the worst team to watch. So if you want your Detroit Lions picks, I could be your guy.
Right. We should bring in a guy that will give us the Texans numbers and then someone else to do the Jets numbers each week. That would be fun.
Yeah. And then everybody would be like, this is crap. And then like turn off. Yeah. He did really well this week. So let's see what happens next week.
So Minnesota was on a bye last week. So this guy doesn't have any numbers, but the week before, KJ Osborne from Minnesota had a walk-off overtime touchdown win against Carolina. So he plays for Minnie. He's the number 3 receiver in Minnesota, but he's one of the favorite targets of Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, Cousins has a lot of weapons around him. I don't know. There's a lot of big names on that field catching footballs as well too.
Yeah, but if you got a lot of Raiders or you got a lot of Ravens, and you need some help, this guy's pretty consistent. He doesn't always get the big numbers, but he gets looks quite consistently. He gets targets. So, you could do worse than KJ Osborne. And then, there's so many banged up receivers for the Giants. Even though they have a ton of receivers, they're all hurt.
They're all getting paid to be sitting there, not doing anything. Yes, it's tough for Daniel Jones. Maybe this is something you want to think about. If you have Daniel Jones as your quarterback, is who's he thrown to? But the names we're going to talk about are not household names.
Okay, so it's Dante Pettis that we're talking about and Darius Slayton.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the reasons why we're talking about these guys is because they're playing Kansas City, the Kansas City Chiefs, sorry. And it's a Monday night game. And for Pettis, he caught a touchdown last week. Okay, so he had 5 receptions for 39 yards. And then we had Slayton, who got a little more work. He got 5 catches for 63 yards. Those two guys, 5 catches each. So, Daniel Jones does have to throw to somebody, and they will be open. They're playing the Chiefs. Think about it.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So, tight ends. Who's your
I picked Galladay up in my draft round because I saw him in a later round, and maybe it was a mid-late round, and I just had to get rid of him after week 4, and so I just am throwing away all New York receivers. Just set them free. Just let them all go. Let someone else deal with that headache.
Yeah, well, sometimes you got to look at the matchup, though, right?
Yeah, that's right.
So, I'm not saying, I'm just saying Chiefs. Okay. Tight ends. Let's move on. Who's your favorite tight end this week? Who do you like?
Like on waiver?
Yeah, like who's a good
Would be
pickup?
Cincinnati or Zuma, whatever his name is. I don't know.
CJ Uzuma. Yeah.
He would probably be my number 1 pickup. And then like the other guy that was playing last night with Indianapolis, Ali Cox.
Yeah. Mo Ali Cox, we had him on our list last week. We said that he caught a lot of touchdowns. If you listened to us and you played him, guess what? Caught a touchdown.
And he showed up big in the game. Not only was he a fantasy standout, he also showed up really big in the game. So
yeah,
good on that guy for being an NFL football player.
Yeah, he's huge too.
Mm-hmm. And I thought Uzoma was a fluke catching that Hail Mary, but then 2 touchdowns this week shows that he's actually one of Burrow's main guys.
Yeah, he's throwing a Chase as his top favorite receiver. And then Uzuma seems to have become his second favorite target. The other thing is they're playing the Jets this week.
Jets.
Yeah. So that's a pretty bad defense. So CJ Uzuma, if he's available, he is in my league. He's out there. So someone could grab him and play him. Hopefully no one from my league is listening.
There's the injury to the Bills tight end that happened before the bye week. So Knox, another person that we talked about.
Yeah.
And so picking up his backup this week might be something to look at. But at the same time, too, Josh Allen has a lot of targets. He might not target his backup because he can target anybody else on the field numerous more times.
Right. Well, they're playing the Dolphins, so Miami's not that great of a D. But yeah, I think you're right. I don't think that Todd Sweeney has the same talent level as Dawson Knox, but he might get some of his goal line looks. Try it at your own risk. It's hard to know with tight ends.
Yeah, and then the other big injury was Wallace's foot. And so his backup is someone to potentially pick up because Ruggs and Edmonds are, 2 good receivers, but Carr loves his tight ends. So
yeah, they're not playing this week, but if you can do it, he is. I don't know how long. Do you know what is Waller's injury, or like how long do you think he might be away for?
Not sure. I don't know any of that information, but he does have a backup, and his backup name is
Foster Moreau. Sounds like a scientist.
Yeah. So maybe just keep an eye out. Put that guy somewhere in your back pocket or something like that. Put your tight end in your end.
Right. Okay. So you had mentioned earlier Robert Tonyan, and we talked about the Green Bay situation. So last week he caught 4 balls for 63 yards and a touchdown on 5 targets. So this week, if Adams is still out, he's back in play again, Tonyan.
Yeah, definitely. Rodgers was thrown to him last year at the end of the year, like if it was going out of business. It was either Adams or Tonyan. Tonyan was getting a lot of passes, not maybe touchdowns. He was getting touchdowns as well, too.
No, he got a lot of touchdowns.
Yeah, like in the last 8 weeks of last season, he was top tight end. So that is definitely someone to ding, ding, ding. Like,
yeah.
If your tight end's not doing what needs to be done, and that's scoring at least 1 touchdown and catching 3 balls, if you're in PPR league, he needs to be picked up for sure.
Yep. Ding, ding, ding. As you said, I like that. Ding, ding, ding. So another guy that we have on our list is Tyler Conklin. The Vikings were on a bye, so he didn't put up any numbers last week, but we know when healthy, he's a guy that they look for, especially down by the goal line. Dalvin Cook used to get a lot of receiving yards, especially down by the goal line. Also, this year they seem to have gone away from that, and he's primarily a running back now. And some of those passing looks by the goal line are going to the tight ends on Minnesota. And when Conklin is healthy, which is not all the time, but when he is, he's their main tight end.
We should talk about defense.
Yeah.
And wrap this thing up, and then we can watch Monday Night Football.
Okay. So, I mean, how about that Baltimore game yesterday? I did not expect Cincy to beat them, did you?
Well, I watched Cincinnati destroy Detroit the week prior. You know, they got a good pressure up front, which makes it easier for the DBs to do their job. So I'm thinking Cincinnati, if you don't have them, or if you can't get them, or you can get them, pick them up, because they're getting sacks. And I upped my sack points to 2 in my league. It was sat at 1 for the past 4 years, but I always got super disappointed because I think sacks are the most exciting play in football. And to only get scored 1 point. So if a team can get 5 sacks, that's 10 points right there. And there's multiple times during the year a team will do at least 5 sacks in one game. And I think Cincinnati is getting there. They didn't have that many sacks last night or yesterday morning, but you know, definitely something to think of depending on how your points are adjusted for your defense.
Yeah, I mean, if you've got the Ravens and they're not able to be out there this week, I guess some people will have the Raiders defense. They're sort of okay. But there's a number of defenses this year that people drafted that we kind of thought were going to be better than they are. And the Bengals are definitely better than we thought they were going to be. So, yeah, I'm impressed. I did not know until yesterday that they were that good. So I'm with you on that one.
Well, I have to get rid of Denver because they just lost both their ends on Thursday night. So,
right.
Are we going to talk about our rosters, or are we just going to post those?
Well, we did say last week that we would sort of show our rosters, you know, an updated version of our rosters. And we both have Brady as our quarterback. I'm 5-2 right now. Where are you at?
I most likely will be 5-2 after tonight. And my 2 running backs were actually on bye weeks, Eckler and Harris. So, you know, I was a little bit handcuffed, and with Carolina not wanting to score or even complete passes.
Yeah.
You know, like that's a tough one when your wide receivers are not catching footballs and touchdowns.
Yeah. Yeah, I was missing Dalvin Cook for sure. The bye weeks are really tough. And yeah, let's just get through them and get back to having our full team playing. But I mean, I'm lucky because in my league with Brady, you get 6 points for a touchdown. So he had 4 in the first half. I thought maybe he was going to get 8, but then, you know, they took their foot off the gas, or they weren't able to complete anymore in the second half. They just kind of, you know, they replaced Brady in the fourth and all that. I mean, 5-2, I'm in second place. I'm first place in my division, second place in my league. How good is 5-2 in your league? Where are you at?
It would be tied for first place with the guy that I'm playing with right now. So it would be first and second. But I think I'll take first because I have more points. But then I lost to him, so maybe I'll be second, but with more points. I don't know.
Yeah, it depends on your league scoring. But that's, I mean, still 5-2. I'm happy with that. I would take that, and I'm sure she would too, right? You would too. So
if you could do it over again, would you pick Evans over?
No, I mean, I've got Godwin and Brown.
Oh, Godwin. Yeah, that's really good. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, Godwin and Brown. So at least you're getting the other. But 3 touchdowns for Evans was pretty fantastic yesterday. So I guess the other guy that I was playing against was shooting himself in the foot because he's like, damn, Scott has Evans. He got 3 touchdowns. And I'm like, damn, guy has Swift and got like one touchdown and a bunch of passes. So
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
works both ways.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Evans is great, but sometimes he doesn't do anything. And I like having two of the three, because I find that like whoever becomes that target of the day, usually gets big numbers. And with Brown out, Godwin still did really well. And then when Brown comes back and when Gronk comes back, that'll be interesting to see what happens there, because Brady loves throwing to Gronk.
Oh yeah, like Gronk was on my waiver wire for the first 2 weeks, and by the third week he got snagged. I was thinking to myself, why was I even thinking about that? I am sticking with Tyler Higbee, and I'm going like Gronk's getting 2 touchdowns a game. They're just doing so much. Tampa Bay is interesting to watch. That's definitely a fun team to watch these days.
Yeah, lots of points. I've got their D too, and they often score a lot of D points for me as well. Like yesterday, 16 points from the defense from Tampa Bay yesterday.
And I'll talk to you next week, but good luck. This is Thursday. Who's playing Thursday this week?
Thursday is the Green Bay game that might not have Devonta Adams, and they're playing Arizona. And Green Bay's going on the road to Arizona, so I'm liking Arizona.
I'm liking Arizona too. Well, Arizona is a good team. They're like, between them and Tampa Bay, they're probably the 2 top offensive teams in the league right now.
Yeah. Let's go watch some games. Okay. Take care.
Bye.
Thanks for watching the Fantasy Football Game Plan podcast. Need coaching on your lineup? Drop us a line and we'll discuss your dilemma.